on Sunday, Newsfirst reported on the Global Financial Integrity Report, which states that 2.88 trillion Sri Lankan rupees or 19 billion US dollars was swindled out of the country in a 10-year time frame ending 2013. Now, where does the country really stand? Why have we lost so much of money? Isn't the authorities responsible to bring those perpetrators to book and get the money back to you sitting at home? What exactly is happening right now in Sri Lanka? Our topic of discussion today is corruption and integrity of financial services in Sri Lanka. Let me introduce our guest this evening, Attorney at Law, Mr. Kushmal Varanasuriya. A very good evening to you and welcome to the show, Mr. Varanasuriya. Also joining us this evening is Dr. W.A. Vijayawardena, former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. Thank you very much, Dr. Vijayawardena, for joining us this evening. No stranger to the show. And also joining us this evening is a former senior banker, Mr. Rusripal Tendakun. Thank you very much, Mr. Tendakun, for joining us this evening. He's also no stranger to the show. And joining us this evening for the first time is Mr. Shamindra Ferdinando, news editor, The Island. A very good evening, Shamindra. Brace yourself. We are going to pose you some very tough questions today in terms of investigative journalists and where and what the authorities can do in terms of moving forward. Thank you very much, Shamindra, for joining us this evening as well. Let's start off Face the Nation today with Dr. W. Vijayawardena, former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank, to get some clarity on exactly what is happening. Dr. Vijayawardena, why isn't the Central Bank of Sri Lanka presently not taking action with regard to the Panama Papers, with regard to the Global Financial Integrity Report? What is the reason behind this?
Well, of course, Samir, we cannot say for sure whether the Central Bank is taking action or whether it is not taking action, because we are not privy to what is happening inside the Central Bank. But I am sure once this kind of a scandal is brought before the Central Bank always looks into it, investigates into it and tries to do the best for the country. So I think my colleagues in the Central Bank would be doing the same thing even now.
Dr. Vijayawardena, with regard to the Panama Papers that have been released, what is the role of the Exchange Controls Department when it comes to money
exchange
that has
control
been deposited outside?
Exchange control laws are very clear on this matter, because if anybody in terms of the exchange control laws enforced in Sri Lanka, anyone who wants to take out money out of Sri Lanka and also to maintain an account outside Sri Lanka, he has to get the approval of the control of exchange. So if any person has violated that particular rule, he has violated the Exchange Control Act, and there are various punishments that the Exchange Controller can impose on such violators. But of course they have to be investigated and they have to be found guilty, and then only the Exchange Controller can impose penalties on that. Of course, I know in the past the Central Bank has been investigating that kind of things that had happened, but the particular incident that you are referring to here, it has taken place in Panama, where the information has not been available to the regulatory authorities throughout the globe, not only to Central Bank of Sri Lanka but also to any other country. The information had not been available. Therefore, we cannot find fault with the regulatory authorities for not taking action. But of course, what has happened here is the whistleblowers have released the data. Now data are now in public domain. So once they are in public domain and also the names have been given, so the Central Bank will have to call each and every person who has been named in the Panama Papers and conduct an independent investigation, and if it finds that they have violated the provisions of the Exchange Control Act, definitely the Central Bank would take action against them.
Has the law been implemented before on prior occasions as far as the Exchange Control Act is concerned?
Exchange Control Act has been implemented before 1977. It was very strictly implemented, and we find that even there was the Criminal Justice Commission appointed by the government of 70 to 77. They found guilty, they found many violators of the Exchange Control Act guilty, and some of them even served jail terms. But after 1977, the approach has now been changed. What has happened is, instead of trying to control this kind of activities through Exchange Control Act, the central bank has been trying to create a situation where people have no more incentives to take money out. So, if we have a proper interest rate policy in Sri Lanka and proper investment policy, and if we are to maintain the stability of the exchange rate of Sri Lanka, then there is no reason for anyone to take this money out. So that was the approach by the central bank after 1977.
Thank you very much, Dr. W. Vijayawardena, former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank, for your thoughts. I now move on to Mr. Rusiripala Tennakone, former senior banker. Mr. Tennakone has been involved in the management of many state banks in Sri Lanka as well. Mr. Tennakone, very interestingly, Dr. Vijayawardena said that the central bank may be even conducting investigations as we speak right now. Can you have faith in the central bank to conduct investigations given what has happened over the last 2 years, the central bank bond issue? We know that the governor was involved in one of the private banks in Switzerland as well with regard to what has happened over the last few years and months with regard to Swiss leaks. Can you really expect justice from the governor and the government? The time starts now.
Yeah, you are right in conjecturing in that manner about the actual role of the central bank vis-a-vis the charges that they are also facing currently. So, but anyway, as Dr. Vijayawardena said, whatever it is, the authority for conducting an investigation or initiating some kind of action in a matter like this rests in the central bank because of the exchange control regulations and the exchange control acts that are in force in the country. So we hope for the best that it has to be initiated by the central bank, and if the central bank doesn't do it, maybe the political wing or the politicians of the country also will have some role to play in this matter. So they will, and the public, general public, and the other whistleblowers, as well as the social elements which are involved in this type of thing, will come into the scene and will make the people initiate the action that they are waiting to be taken.
Mr. Tennakone, you said hoping for the best. Are we waiting until the cows fly over the moon, until justice is meted out to the public of Sri Lanka?
But that is the situation actually we are faced with at the moment, because there are none of us, being members of the public, can go to a court of law in the country and say, okay, implement this, or ask so and so to, or give an order that so and so to start a series of actions on these matters. We have to wait for the law to take its role, play its role properly. So that is why I said let us hope for the best, because there can be a lullness due to the problems that the central bank itself is facing at the moment, but they cannot indefinitely continue in that hibernation, because there will be a lot of activists who are interested in this type of things. And when this is not a thing that is only confined to Sri Lanka, the whole world is looking at it. There are countries which have already declared that if any money is found to be sent out from their countries in an illegal form and are reflected in these, if they come out that these monies are there from their countries, they have already proclaimed that such monies will be treated as money belonging to that country, not that person. They have gone to that extent.
Mr. Tennakone, when you spoke of investigations, I posed you a question, why isn't central bank doing enough? And you said that we have to hope for the best. However, when we take a look at India, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has openly said that an investigation will be conducted. A few minutes ago, that is at approximately around 8:35 p.m. today, David Cameron said tax evasion is a crime and an investigation will be conducted and the documents will be handed over to the financial authorities. Why is our Prime Minister, why is our central bank silent?
That's how the democracies are functioning. Unfortunately, we are yet to see that type of functioning here. So we'll wait and see. That is why I said we'll hope for the best.
Mr. Tennakone, a step back today. Any reason?
Well, what we observe today is something very, very strange. You know, the democracy that is prevailing in the country itself is very strange.
Very, very strange indeed, Mr. Nakon. We, of course, will delve deeper on these issues in a bit when the journalist round begins. I now move on to Shamindra Ferdinando, news editor of The Island. Again, as I said before, Shamindra, brace yourself. Your opening question today is a breakthrough as far as investigative journalism is concerned. The Panama Report, 40 years of investigations. You have a number of countries involved, even in Sri Lanka. You have 3 corporates, 3 clients and 22 shareholders involved, allegedly involved. And then you have the Global Financial Integrity Report, which states that 2.88 trillion rupees have been swindled out of the country. In terms of a journalistic perspective, how do you view these reports that have come out?
Actually, you know, there are 2 issues here. Number 1 is Panama Papers, recently released. But you must not, you know, in June 2013, the same people, the organization is the US-based International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, ICIJ. They released a report which identified several dozens of Sri Lankans who maintain offshore accounts. So the former government did not investigate, but that issue was raised in Parliament by Dr. Harsha De Silva. But subsequently, the previous government, I mean the central bank, and this government and all those who campaign for Yahapalana never discussed that issue. Never. There's a report. See, when Panama Papers came out, the international media, the social media also released that report. Right? So, 2 reports. Now you see the Panama Papers were released by a group of journalists and several other organizations. Right? Now, among them, that we must realize that they released a previous report in June 2013 which identified several dozen Sri Lankan businessmen.
But Shamindra, having offshore accounts alone does not mean anything. It has to be not declared to the Inland Revenue Department and the Exchange Control.
Certainly. So I am telling you that these funds were not declared. Not declared. No, absolutely no investigations were done.
Are you trying to say that the present regime is also trying to sweep this issue under the carpet?
I saw a report in The Nation. The Nation interviewed Deputy Minister Iran Vikramaratne. Mr. Vikramaratne said, we have not so far sought information from these people. So, I mean, they have been demanding investigations, trying to find money in Dubai and various other places. Why not ask them to release the names? Now see, you take India, you mentioned about India. Now, the Indian media, the Indian government released certain names. One is Mr. Harish. He was the former Solicitor General of India between 1999 and 2002. Then you have Mr. Soli Sorabji. He is the former Attorney General of India. Now see the status of the people who have been involved in this thing. So the similar thing can be happening here. It must have happened, right? If the former Attorney General of India has been accused of maintaining secret accounts, I think we should investigate our public officials also.
Thank you very much, Shamindra, for your thoughts as well. News editor, The Island. I now move on to Mr. Krishmal Varanasuriya, who is an attorney at law by profession. Mr. Varanasuriya, I want to drag your attention to a comment made by Mr. Tendakon with regard to individuals not being able to go to courts if there is a discrepancy. He said that people can't go to courts as they wish, and the law will sometimes fail them. Now, how do you view this statement? Do you think that the people can't go to courts in an event like this and request the financial authorities to do justice?
Yeah. Firstly, Shamir, thank you for inviting us once again to August Assembly. It's nice to be here, and thank you to your station for bringing this topic up before us as it appeared from most of the line of thinking before it is swept under the carpet. On your specific question, very direct answer, no, people can go to court, particularly after the 19th Amendment that all of us got together and drafted. I also had something to do with that, which by right now ensures freedom of information as a constitutional right, a fundamental right that cannot be violated. If any citizen were now to go to the central bank and ask, do you have this information? If you have it, please disclose it to me. And if they don't, he has all the right to go to the Supreme Court and say my fundamental right has been challenged. And that itself is open. Then under all the acts that I can refer to, the Exchange Control Act, the Inland Revenue Act, there are several public duties that are due by the central bank and public officials, which any citizen can go to a court of law and compel the enforcement of, if they are not doing their duty. So there are several actions that citizens can. I really hope, as lawyers we can't espouse litigation on there, but I really hope that someone, even to test the new provisions of the fundamental rights chapter that were added, will actually try to get this information out. And if it's refused, we'll try to challenge this in the Supreme Court. Because that will be a good test to see how far our Supreme Court is going to walk the talk of enactments that come in as constitutional amendments. But on the overall package, I mean, may I just say this? I am well in tune with what the other speakers have said. That yes, there is obvious violation that we can see. But I hope, at least on this occasion, this Yahapalana regime that all of us strive to bring to power, all of us at street corners, at pavements, tried to bring a government that appeared to do justice and bring back people's money and shouted about corruption so much, at least on this occasion, will not make the same mess that they did in Dubai. As Shamindra said, we'll actually try to do something to see whether the perpetrators can be brought to book. Because there are several violations of the acts which we can discuss during your journalist round, that the law will encumber upon these individuals. In addition to that, under exchange control or Inland Revenue, there are bankers' duties of care. Bankers today don't operate as earlier bankers where you're just in the business of making money. Under money laundering regulations, if you look at the acts like FISMA of the UK, the Financial Services Management Act, that have brought in several new regulations on bankers' duty of care, which are with a furtherance or an extension, where if a banker's knowledge is triggered for any suspicious transaction, they have to report it so that investigations can come in. So there are several provisions of law that we can go after if we are really interested in bringing the perpetrators to justice. So I would like to see that interest by this government, because if not, they will also be if they haven't already been targeted, another talk shop and just governing for the sake of governing for a while.
Krishna, do you think that the banks are taking the governments or even the people for a ride?
Well, Samir, you must look at first the bank's duty. Primary duty is to shareholders, if it's not a state bank, to make money and profits. So that is there. So unless a bank's duty is agitated by the regulator, where we have a regulator that's supposed to check on banks, if the regulator also doesn't appear to be interested in regulating, then the banks will happily carry on their business. Of course, they are also liable if their due diligence should have been triggered, and had it not been triggered in an investigation, they will also be called to book. But then I think a more firm step must be taken by a regulator, the central bank, because the act specifies even officers of the Inland Revenue Department to go out and investigate, and when something is brought to their attention, and bring perpetrators to justice.
Thank you very much, Mr. Varun Surya, for your thoughts as well. We opened the journalist round. We introduced our journalist this evening, very briefly, Nadim Majid, joining us this evening as well. Chaturanga Haporachi. I usually forget your name, Chaturanga, because Faraz usually sits here. Tomorrow is Faraz's birthday, so he's opting out today. And also onto my left far corner is Charita. Thank you very much for joining us this evening as well. Let's start off our journalist round with Chaturanga today.
Thank you, Sham. First question to Mr. Tenakon. Mr. Tenakon, just because a group of journalists come out and put out certain leaked documents, should the government of Sri Lanka worry? It's not like they worry when journalists say anything, when local journalists say anything. Just because a group of international journalists say anything, should they be worried?
But this is not a situation where some journalist or somewhere unknown have brought out something. This is an international affair. This has aroused the interest of the whole world globally. And these are all recognized recognized bodies of the journalists that are dealing with this matter. The International the Journalists Association, or the body that has to whom the first information has gone, and they too, according to reports we have been investigating on this matter before they leaked it out. It is not a case where, you know, some information came to the journalist and they just put it out haphazardly or in some unimportant way. They themselves have been looking into these things, studying the papers running into some 1.5 million papers.
So the government should be worried.
Definitely the government should be worried.
So this Global Financial Integrity Report says that 2.8 trillion rupees, that's 2,880 billion rupees, has been taken out of the country from 2004 to 2013.
Yeah.
Now, if a group like the Global Integrity Report can compile actually a report about this, what was Sri Lanka doing all the time? Until they were compiling a report, we didn't know about this.
We must frankly admit that the Yahapalana government has taken too much of time, and they are beginning to show their failure in this field completely. People have lost faith in what they are going to do or what they can do, because they have been telling that we are going to bring money from you know, belonging to people, corrupt characters in this country which has been lodged in other countries. We are going to bring those things and then, you know, use it for countries' development and so on. Nothing has happened, and likely nothing is going to happen. So therefore, in that situation, I think the public...
Mr. Nik, I want to interrupt you for a second here. Now, the report in question very clearly indicates from the year 2004 to 2013, in which the former president was the president of the country for 9 out of the 10 years. You have the former deputy governor holding office for 7 out of the 10 years in question. Can you really point the finger at this government and say, you're at fault, you're supposed to conduct investigations, when it's the former regime that they should have refrained from even doing this, if that is the case?
So, I mean, the case is, we don't point the finger at the perpetrator, no. We point the finger at the people who should bring it out and who should find a solution to that.
But Mr.
That is why everybody is interested in
and,
what the government is going
the
to do.
The people who should find out and basically investigate and then bring the criminals before the law, not necessarily the elected officials. That duty rests with the law enforcement and the Attorney General's department and other regulatory authorities. So my question is, in the 10 years that this was happening, that 2.8 trillion rupees was being spirited out of the country into offshore accounts and tax havens and whatnot, what were the regulatory bodies doing? What was the Attorney General's department doing? What was the police doing? What was the central bank doing?
Yeah, whatever it is, it has happened, no? Yeah. The situation is, it has taken place, it has happened now. What we now see on paper is that the money has been filtered out of the country, and it has been found that it has happened during different periods. If I remember correctly, in the reports that we read, they have categorized the periods during which, given the amounts, how much has gone during this period, and this period.
And may I give you a slightly different response to your question? Look, it is because our Attorney Generals are not doing their job, and they were going to public car parks and opening doors for secretaries of ministries, and because our public regulators are not doing their jobs, that government was entrusted upon a different set. Don't get me wrong, yes, public officers must do their duty, but if you remember the regime that we had, the white man regime that we had, not public servants, everyone was scared to speak, except for a few who shouted. You follow? And that is why we changed the government. You give the direction and control of a government to a set of people to run it for 6 or 5 years. Now it is up to them to set aside the corruption and the inaction of the past that didn't happen and put it right. So we can't just say, well, should we expect parliamentarians? No, we don't expect parliamentarians to go hunting for money. But the parliamentarians who are entrusted to portfolios, and now we have an abundance, overabundance of ministries are here, about triple the amount that they promised. It's up to them to make sure that the ministries and regulators under them are doing their job.
Dr. the former deputy governor today speaking to Newsfirst said that when we inquired the former deputy governor, former governor of the central bank, Mr. Ajit Nivad Kabra, when we spoke to him, he said, thank you very much, Nani, for correcting me, the former governor of the central bank, Ajit Nivad Kabra, said that he refused to comment on the global financial integrity report and said that we should contact the governor, the incumbent governor of the central bank. How ethical is it for the former governor to say something like that?
We might excuse him, Samir, on this count because he may not have the information in the report that you are referring to because he is now out of his office. And also we have to recognize the fact that what has been published by the Global Integrity, Financial Integrity Group is an academic exercise. What they have done is they have taken the gaps in the payments by the individual country and the receipts by the other country, and they have estimated based on that the amount which is unaccounted for, and that unaccounted for amount is considered as the amount that has been swindled, taken out of the country.
Illegally?
So, yeah, I mean, we don't know who are the people. That's at the global level. At the macro level, some 20 billion US dollars have been taken out of Sri Lanka during this particular period. And right now we have, of course, this global, the financial integrity report had been published since 2008. So we had the access to that report, the benefit of that report for a long period of time. But what has happened is there had not been any attempt by any public authorities to go in deep into this kind of an investigative estimation.
Why is that?
Mainly they were involved in other kind of public policy and not the policy relating to preventing corruption and financial integrity in the country. That may be the reason.
Shavendra?
Actually, both political parties, the UNP and the SLP, they are not interested in this, right? In this country, people are divided.
Why are they interested, Shavendra?
Because
it's very easy to say that they are interested, but why?
Shamir, I am telling you, all these people, they are the friends of the UNP and the SLP. I am telling you. That is the truth. That is why they are not interested in investigating. Right? You take, just leave out. Now I told you, the Solicitor General of India is under investigation. The former Solicitor General and the son of former Attorney General of India.
Shavendra, I'm going to interrupt you for a second here. We're going for a very quick time check and we will be back. Just 7 seconds, Shavendra.
Anchopedia Pro with iron, omega-3, prebiotics and other vital nutrients.
Welcome back, Shavendra. You were talking about the Solicitor General of India, former Solicitor General of India.
So, I believe the situation, we have a similar situation here. Now, you see, you talk about Sakwiti issue, right? Here. A veteran journalist, Sakwiti used a veteran journalist, Mr. Edwin Aryadasa, to attract Sri Lankans to invest their money, right? On television. He used it.
Shavendra, I want you to take full responsibility for the statements that you make, because as a network, we will not take any responsibility with regard to any third person. Yes, to continue.
I take the responsibility, full responsibility. So, that situation, no action taken. The previous government failed to take action. The previous government protected Mr. Aridas. Right? So, it's happening now.
Who are you pointing the finger at? Is it the previous government or the present regime?
The previous government. The previous government. It happened during the previous government. You take the Khotalawala case. The central bank did nothing. Absolutely nothing. Right?
Why are they trying to protect individuals? Is it because of political gain, or is it because
it's not
of the financial gain?
It's financial. It's you know, there are a lot of advantages. Right? It's like appointing one's friends and relatives to our embassies overseas. It's like that. And you see, Shamir, the head of the Chilean Transparency International has resigned over Panama Papers.
The world what?
Chile.
No, the global head of corporate
also resigned.
Yeah, no, not resigned. He's implicated.
So just imagine the situation. The British Prime Minister has admitted his late father maintained offshore accounts, secret accounts.
But he first denied it.
He denied it. So there was 4 separate statements issued by British Prime Minister's office. Ultimately admitted he received money, a gift with inverted commas, from his mother. Right? So that level. Now see, the Deputy British High Commissioner in Colombo, Miss Davis, she recently issued a statement saying that the government of UK is helping the FCID to investigate, to locate money overseas. Right? Here the British Prime Minister. So if they do it, and I am sure our politicians, our public officials do the same.
Are you trying to say that if they do it, why can't we do it? Is that your
I mean, it's happening here.
thinking?
I am not justifying it. It's happening overseas and it's happening here.
Dr. Wijewardena, in the context of delayed investigations over the global financial integrity report, what will warrant a bank, both local and international, to start investigations? Does it always need to be on a court order? What are the other
Well, of course,
situations?
that report, as I told you, it's an academic exercise. What they have done is they have taken the global data and they have identified the gaps, and they have actually pointed out to government of Sri Lanka that an enormous amount of money is unaccounted for. An investigation can be done because there are no people there. But this will help the government of Sri Lanka to decide on the appropriate policy to minimize it. I won't say to eliminate it, because we cannot eliminate these kind of operations, to minimize it. Now, appropriate policy should be that Sri Lankan citizens should not have incentive to take their money out. Now, right now I find the current monetary policy of the central bank is actually helping these people to take their money out, because we are maintaining a low interest rate, and all the exporters have therefore incentive to keep the money out as long as possible, until such time the exchange rate in Sri Lanka gets depreciated, because the low interest rates have helped them to meet their local expenses here by borrowing from the banking sector, and they are doing it now. So because of this reason, our own policies have helped and promoted these people to take the money out. Now our objective should be, we must have imagine the bird's cage. If we keep the door open in the bird's cage, the other birds will fly in, because they know that they can fly out also. Now these are the type of policy that they have to introduce, and whatever the anomalies in the current policy, they will have to eliminate it, so that we can
guarantee that birds will fly in if you leave the cage open? Because right now, with the gate firmly closed, with the Exchange Control Act, with the gate very firmly closed, the birds are still flying out. If you open the gate, what's not to say that the birds will fly out on an even bigger scale?
When the birds come into the cage, when they find that they cannot remain inside the cage safely, they will fly out. Because that all depends on the macroeconomic policy package that we are introducing in the country.
Mr. Wijewardena and Dr. Wijewardena and Mr. Tennekon as well. I'm very glad that we have both a banker and a regulator of banks on the show today, because I want to quickly, before we go into the next one, get a response to what Mr. Krishmal Varnasurya said about the responsibility of bankers and banks, the financial services basically, in preventing such things from happening. Do you believe that there is such a responsibility?
Yes indeed, because the banking has changed quite a lot. They have to use their due diligence, and you may recall recently in the case of this Bangladesh bank, where some hackers had tried to steal $1 billion from the Bangladesh bank account. When it came to a bank in Sri Lanka, when they found that there was a misspelling of the name of the beneficiary, they just immediately brought it to the notice. So likewise, the bankers cannot act blindly.
These transactions, right, involving this, I mean, 2.88 trillion, no matter whichever way you split it over a period of 10 years, it still would have been large transactions. So are you saying that none of these large transactions triggered the suspicions of people in our banking and financial services industries?
Transactions apart,
I mean, if they caught a misspelling of a name, were their suspicions not triggered by massive transactions?
2 years after the conflict ended, $4.6 billion being
now look at this. In 2008, as Freddie said, there has been a report of this nature long time back, no? Actually, that is where the authorities should have focused their attention on some preventive action to stop this type of things. That focus has not been there in this country. No one has been alert to these situations. That is where these people cannot be excused for not doing their job properly. You see, when you hear that something of this magnitude is happening, certainly they must look inside and see what is happening to our exports, what is happening to our imports. Are the papers properly done, or are we monitoring them correctly? So steps have to be taken.
Who's at fault? Who's at fault?
The policymakers.
Is it the regulator?
Dr. Vijayawardena said it.
Or is it both?
Or not the banks, really.
No, the banks have no responsibility, Samir, because banks have to protect the interest of their customers. And also we have to accept the fact that they are doing a business. But of course I know banks are alerting the central bank at all times. They are alerting, and it's up to the central bank and the government to do a proper investigation, because as Mr. Tennakon has said, our exports have been falling as a percentage of our GDP from year 2004 to 2014.
So you mean to say the banks have not alerted the central bank?
Banks would have, because this happens because the under-invoicing and over-invoicing of the import and export transaction.
Trade misinvoicing.
Trade, they call it trade misinvoicing. So these things are actually brought into the notice of the central bank at all times.
So then what you're implying that the central bank, having known about this, did not take any action.
That's the saddest thing about.
Dr. Vijayawardena, you were at the central bank for a very long time. Do you think the central bank has the capacity, the capability to?
Central bank actually tried to correct it, because when we found that when we have this balance of payments accounts prepared, the accounts didn't balance. Then there was a huge errors and omissions figure, which these global financial integrity people have used to indicate that there had been a siphoning of money. When this was there, the central bank had tried to find out why it is so, and it has given certain recommendations. So I can remember to government at that time to prevent it.
Mr. Vadakul Surya, question to you, I think the last question. Now the Panama Papers came out, and countries like Iceland, the Prime Minister had to resign. Countries which were not mentioned in the Panama reports, New Zealand and Australia, also took action. And as Shamil said half an hour ago, David Cameron, Prime Minister of England, also had a say in this. And you were involved in politics for some time. How long do you think Sri Lanka will have to wait to take action, do something like this? On top of that, we also now have the Global Integrity Report.
Chaturanga, how long do I think it will take to take action? I think pretty soon.
Because you know the pulse of the politicians.
Yeah, pretty soon. But let me just say that, as you say, for a little while my name was involved in politics.
Your name was definitely Mr.
No, but may I just say this? I see a lot of political bargaining, dealing going on with these investigations.
So you agree when Mr. Shamil Ferdinand said...
Can I just finish? You will bring them to a state where you show them that there is a threat of my imprisoning you or arresting you. Then you bring something very important to you politically and make a deal so that, okay, I don't arrest you, but make sure you keep quiet or you support us on this. I mean, if that is not the Yaha Palane that we shouted for, I'm sorry to say. But that is what unfortunately I see happening now. Just before a very important decision is made either in Parliament or a bill is floated, we see news lines being run here and there. So and so is about to be arrested. We are going to take so and so from this big family next week. And then immediately after that bill is floated or what you want is taken or the budget is passed, that person is holidaying in Maldives. You follow? So I think the people of this country must awaken to realize who's becoming a donkey and who's leading the donkey.
Who is becoming the donkey, Mr.
Well, I'll leave the people to decide that, because as you said...
Thank you very much, Mr. Vadakul Surya, for your thoughts as well. In the second round, we now go in for a short commercial break. Who is fooling who? And who is the donkey? Up to you decide at home. We're going for a short commercial break. you very much for joining us on Face the Nation. We now move on to the third round. We start off with Shamindra Ferdinando, news editor of The Island. Shamindra, Chaturanga posed a question to Mr. Tennakon asking whether the government is taking the journalist report seriously. My question to you is, does this government take journalists in Sri Lanka seriously? Because you have the Prime Minister in Parliament criticizing certain journalists using his parliamentary privileges as well. Does this government take journalists seriously? Because you have David Cameron, who spoke an hour ago saying that he thanks journalists for bringing out this report into light.
Cameron, of course, is playing politics, and I think Mr. Wickremesinghe's comment on journalism is not connected to this issue. He had a running battle with some journalists over other issues like Danno Budunge Geetha and all, so I don't like to comment on that. But my point here is that both governments are not interested in investigating. Now, if you really investigate into this matter, you may find some of the people named in June 2013 ICIJ report or document in Panama Papers. And there can be bankers, ex-bankers, I don't know, big businessmen. So, it's very interesting.
You have a CEO of a very big bank who is also implicated in the Panama Papers. I don't want to mention the name of the bank, Shamindra, but
banks are also
CEO,
involved.
former CEO.
Yes. So I think if they are really interested in investigating, that they must investigate all. But I don't believe they'll take any action. If you take the parliamentary reports like the COPE report, the PAC report, over the years, our politicians, Mr. Vijayadhasa Rajapaksa, he investigated and he identified certain persons. The previous government took all of them to the SLAP-led UPFA and stopped the investigation. Right? Nothing happened to them and they are still there. So like that, if you go through COPE reports, you will realize you don't need Panama Papers. Most of these politicians representing both political parties will be in deep trouble, and that's the truth. But unfortunately, a section of the media, although we have reported on these issues, we have failed, I believe, I admit, that to expose these people, because the COPE report is there. Like the report prepared by Mr. Dewgunasekara, Mr. Vijayadhasa Rajapaksa, they have identified the people responsible for various transactions. You take the bribery commission. The bribery commission is not authorized, empowered to investigate the private sector. That's the truth, right? So all the big deals are between the state sector and the private sector. You will have, say, X.
They can if a complaint is made.
No, they don't investigate.
They don't, but they can. They can.
No, people can complain, but they don't investigate. So there's a huge issue.
So you think that deals are being made behind the back door?
19th Amendment.
Not deals, you know, that this is not politics, I am telling you. This is something beyond. This is
beyond politics. If there is, what politics, is this?
You know, it is not something between two politicians. You must realize that big companies, various institutions, they fund both political parties, right? So if you go back and check, you will realize there are very, very interesting names.
Thank you very much, Shamindra, for your thoughts. I now move on to Mr. Rusiripala Tennakon. Mr. Tennakon, there was a lot of talk about 19 billion rupees that have been swindled by the former regime in illegal or unsolicited projects or tenders over the last few years. And then you had the former president saying, show me this 19 billion. Now you have 2.88 trillion swindled out of the country over a 10-year time frame. How do you see these numbers?
Well, one thing that comes to my mind is that all these politicians have been totally lost in their interests and in their duties during their periods, whatever, even now as well as before, because 2.8 trillion, this figure, is not a figure that is related to one period or one era. You know, this has been coming over for the last 7-8 years. So what it reflects is that all the politicians who have been there, they have just either thrown a blind eye on this or utterly disregarded what is happening. They were not interested. So this is the case. So therefore, as Ferdy said, because this is a money game, it's not a game of politics, it's a monetary game. So they may have had interest to keep mum about those things.
Who is riding the horse right now? You say it's a money game. Who's riding the horse right now?
Well, what we as members of the public, we always point our finger at the government and those people in authority now, because corruption is not trying to take money for yourself. If you are allowing corruption to continue, that is also corruption. What is happening is corruption is taking place. Corruption, if you show a blind eye to what is happening, that is also some kind of corruption which should not be accepted by the people.
On who are you putting the money on, Mr. Tennakoon? Who are you putting the money on? Who's going to win this race? The people, the government, or someone else?
You mean the money?
The money, the corruption. Who's going to win this game? Who's going to get away from this scot-free?
I think people will have to force those in power to take action.
Where does the country stand now, Mr. Tennakoon?
As it is drifting. They are not showing any interest in these matters, and what they are saying is one thing, and what they are doing is one thing.
You have a finance minister who is not even in charge of the central bank anymore. How do you see this development, Mr. Tennakoon? Is this worrying?
No, these are definitely worrying. These are contributory factors which somebody can think or conjecture that these are pre-planned affairs to facilitate certain wrong things to happen in this country. I mean, you can't blame anybody for thinking like that, because when something out of the normal happens, and that once that happens, the result what we see is something that is full of corruption.
What does it mean, Mr. Tennakoon? Does it mean that the Prime Minister is not trusting his own cabinet ministers?
I don't think it is not a case of not trusting. He is having his own way as to what he decides best as to what he should do to make things happen the way he wants.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tennakoon. Shavindra, you'll have to wait until we move on to the fourth round to express your views or rebut the points that was brought forward by Mr. Tennakoon. Unfortunately, that's the format of the program. I now move on to Dr. W.A. Vijayawardena, former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank. Dr. Vijayawardena, the country's economy is somewhat collapsing. We are now moving on to an IMF loan as well, a standby arrangement in the next few weeks, according to the Minister of Finance. Where do we really stand? Can't we really investigate what happened in Sri Lanka over the last 10 years, bring this money and help the country be revived from this problematic situation?
Samir, now we can't do it on the basis of this global integrity report, financial integrity report, because it's as I told you, it's an academic exercise. But what happens is that we can point out that the Sri Lanka government had been losing its revenue as a percentage of GDP continuously, because in 1980s we had about 22% of GDP raised by the government of Sri Lanka as revenue, which has now come down even below 12%. So that means part of this money which has gone out of Sri Lanka has not paid their income tax. So that is where the problem lies. So we have to go before IMF and we have to depreciate currency. We have to have this belt tightening program called austerity program introduced. All these things have become necessary because the government of Sri Lanka is not getting its revenue properly. So it is up to now to the Minister of Finance and also the Prime Minister to introduce suitable measures that the money that is being taken out of Sri Lanka is minimized, and also the people who have this money will pay their taxes duly, and finally they will contribute to the national coffers.
Dr. Vijayawardena, why can't the central bank reach out to the Global Financial Integrity Organization, which is a US-based organization, to carry out investigations into this 2.88 trillion rupees?
In fact, they will help Sri Lanka because, you know, as I told you,
they've already said that they will help Sri Lanka.
Yeah, I mean, it's an academic exercise, and we don't have to go to the global financial integrity people in order to get this job done, because the Central Bank of Sri Lanka itself can do it, because it's a very simple mechanism. The data, all the data which they have used, they are available in the public domain. The methodology is given there, and we don't have to get someone else to report it to us. We ourselves can do it, and I hope that because after the release of the report, the Central Bank would have initiated action to calculate the data and see whether these data are correct.
If it's very simple, if we have the procedure, if we have the mechanism in place, why aren't we doing it?
Probably my understanding is that they may be involved in some other more important work. I mean, for them this may not be the most important and the top priority work in the country.
More important work. You are quite aware, Dr. Vijayawardena, that the present governor of the central bank was the CEO of an organization which was a subsidiary of an organization, a bank in London, in Switzerland. It's called the Swiss Leaks, and we saw many names coming out. How do you see the involvement of these private banks? You said that the interest is to earn money, but is that the ethical way out?
What we can do is that it is up to the appointing authority to screen the person to be appointed as the governor to find out whether the particular person has any kind of a, whether he has an unblemished character. Now, if the appointing authority has failed Samir, then nobody can do anything about it today.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vijayawardena, for your thoughts as well on the third round. I now move on to Mr. Krishmal Varansurya. Mr. Varansurya, you said something very interesting. Deals are being made under closed doors. I want you to elaborate on this. Why do you say so? Do you think that something funny is happening right now in the ranks of this government as well? We saw this happening during the last few years or so. Are we looking at something like that in the future as well?
Yeah, I say it for a logical reason, Shamir. As Shamindra said, let's forget the global forum for a moment. If you simply look at the Exchange Control Act, starting from the new amended 6A onwards, keeping of currency, any assets overseas, any payments overseas, corporate payments, all of this must be under permission of the central bank. As Shamindra said, simply before all of this, there were several individuals whose names we knew could not match their income. It's a very simple case, particularly if it's in the case of a politician. I remember filling up one of those forms. I had to fill whether my wife was part of a company, whether my children of a particular age were part of the company. So we give this complete declaration of assets to the commissioner before an election. Now it's very simple to see whether your lifestyle can be justified with what you earn. That's a very simple investigation. Why is it not being done is my question. We didn't have to wait for the global forum. If you look at the lifestyles of some of these are very good friends, I'm not trying to be personal here, who I also associate. But if you look at some of the lifestyles, they cannot be justified upon their income. So then obviously there is a failure, because the act, if you go down the act, there the central bank officers, inland revenue officers, exchange control officers are allowed to, permitted to carry out investigations. Now, if you remember the Dubai scam that we went and messed up because we tried to take some letter to the sheikh and ask for information. That's not how you do it. You must take a proper authority that we are investigating the fact in Sri Lanka. Then a court under public disclosure will protect that privilege and give the information. Now, if we at least launch some investigations into some, say, top 10 people, and then take those letters of authority from our courts and go and make the application in those relevant courts where the banks are held and ask for information, that duty can be given. That information can be given. You take your guests at this table or any other guest that you invite for Face the Nation. Ask them whether they would volunteer to do this. I'm sure 90% will say, yes, we'll volunteer, we'll help the government do it. There are so many avenues in which this can be done. I mean, surely if they have other important things to do, get the civil society involved. We will go and work, say, 5-10 hours every week voluntarily and bring these perpetrators to justice. You ask these people, they will volunteer. Why are we not doing it is the question. We are not doing it because there's a quid pro quo. We will protect you for as long as we are. Yes, we'll shout at each other for a little bit for the media to pick up and put on news. But other than that, we won't seriously hit you all. Then after you all come to power, you all protect us. I mean, that's how we have been governed, I'm sorry to say, since independence. It's time that our people woke up to this blue, green or red reality and say, look at the person.
It's very subjective, isn't it?
Of course it's subjective, and I'm being subjective, it's a subjective matter. Because if up to date we are not seeing, we are going with the begging bowl to China and India and everywhere else to earn money, bring these trillions of dollars into Sri Lanka, will you? How many of your gum methods will you be able to develop? Bring the money back to Sri Lanka. To put volunteers, if you want to go trace the funds, I'm sure volunteers will do a job of work. So let us have some seriousness into this, otherwise we keep on shouting at the public, and if the public don't realize it, I'm sorry, all we can do is continue to shout till our generation also will come here and shout.
Thank you very much, Mr. Varun Surya, for your thoughts as well. We're now going for a short commercial break. When we come back, we discuss more with our guests. Welcome back. This is Face the Nation. Our topic of discussion today is corruption and integrity of financial services in Sri Lanka. We open the floor for our journalists to pose questions. I think we'll start off with you.
Thanks, Shamik. Mr. Wijewardena, I'd like to start with you because we were talking about these massive sums of money, and I just remembered, Shamindra, I want your input on this as well. Mr. Varun Surya was talking about how we went to Dubai with a letter to the Sheikh and tried to get information regarding money laundering, etc. I think you'll recall the finance minister made a statement recently. When I say recently, it was last year actually, an offer of amnesty for people with money in offshore accounts. Bring the money back to Sri Lanka and there's blanket amnesty. Is this the way to get the money back, A, or is this the way to handle the matter in any way, B?
Well, that's of course, Nadeem, it's one of the options, because since we don't know who has the money.
But would you condone offering an amnesty like that to people who have, we now come to find out, siphoned off about 2 trillion?
It has been tried by many countries in the past.
And it has not worked.
It has been tried by Sri Lanka also on many occasions. But unfortunately what happened was, now we had a similar amnesty during Dr. Nempera's time from 1970 to 77. Then another amnesty during President Premadasa's time.
My point is, it has never worked.
Yeah, it has never worked because people don't trust the government of Sri Lanka. That's the main reason. Because if you don't trust the government of Sri Lanka, because you bring money and the government gives you a promise, but the other day...
I think, Mr. Wijewardena, what we need to establish is the people who have taken this money out have quite probably done something illegal in terms of the exchange value.
But we don't know who.
So should we be too worried about whether they trust the government or not? Shouldn't we instead be thinking about, let's go hunt them down?
We should be worried because, you know, we have lost a valuable amount of money as tax revenue to the government of Sri Lanka. Therefore, we should be worried.
With the thief
but
to bring it back the way to
unfortunately, we don't know who the person is, who the culprit is. So if we don't know who the culprit is, the only way to do that is, because it's just like, you know, I lose some valuable item from my home, and if I don't know who has stolen it, all I can do is to make an appeal to the thief. Come back and deliver it to me. I will not, you know, take any action against you. The same thing is being done by the government of Sri Lanka also. The objective of amnesty is for people to voluntarily bring back that money and give that money to government of Sri Lanka. In the past, they didn't work because they didn't trust the government of Sri Lanka. Because the reason is that there was a change in the policy from one party to another. Even with the same people, there was a change in the policy from one time to another. And as a result, people didn't want to take that risk. So
do you think we should be worried about whether possible criminals trust the government or not? Shouldn't we be more concerned about whether our officials are at the central bank and at other enforcement and regulatory bodies are hunting this down, hunting down the paper trail to bring them to book rather than offering them amnesty?
I believe such statements are made to deceive the public, right, for the public consumption, that's all. All these people are well aware of the IDs of people who had foreign accounts, who had moved money illegally. They are fully aware. There are no secrets here. They are fully aware. I don't know it. You don't know it. But up there, they are fully aware of people moving funds to various capitals and various banks. They are fully aware. They will not take any action. I don't think.
You're confident about this?
100%. They will not take. Shamir, if you just go through a COPE report, you will be shocked. You will be shocked the way these people, the central bank, various ministries, the way they have robbed this country. Procurement, right? Millions and millions of dollars. Just go through it. I will give you an example without mentioning the companies, that how the financial sector, the public sector cooperates with the private sector to sell government assets overnight. When a certain transaction takes 6 months or 8 months, that because the key people happen to be friends or from the same village, they do it overnight. And I'm sure Mr. Vivas is aware of these things. Right? Mr. Vasudeva Nanakara went to court, and the Supreme Court ordered that transaction, annulled the transaction, right? It happened, but unfortunately, the politicians are not interested. And I must talk about the civil society also. There are a lot of good people, and at the same time, they are also receiving money, millions. According to central bank reports, the civil society organizations, the big players in Colombo, they received 40 billion Sri Lankan rupees during tsunami, immediately after tsunami. Nothing happened, right? I have a report here. It's from the government of Norway. Now, they investigated their role in Sri Lanka during the past 10 years, that's from 1997 to 2009, and they issued a statement, this report, and it says that several organizations, NGOs in Sri Lanka had received $28 million for 3-year period. So just imagine how much money. So this country, the central bank and other bodies, the parliament, they do not know how much money is going out of this country and how much money coming in.
Dr. Vijayawardena, can you substantiate what
well, that may be true.
Shamindra said?
I haven't seen the report which Mr. Ferdinando is, quoting about. It may be true because the most of the governments, Western country governments, have been supporting NGOs for various purposes, and one of the worries that those countries are having is that our NGOs do not have a proper governance structure in Sri Lanka, and as a result, the monies are being misused. So because
very alarming, isn't it?
It's an alarming situation. That's why the citizens of those countries, that's why the Norway government wouldn't have done it on its own. But the Norwegians would have insisted their government to investigate into the money that they have, because it's taxpayers' money.
Mr. Tennecoon, your thoughts on this? Very alarming,
very alarming. At the same time, it's very strange that the way the government is reacting or behaving in finding the funds required for the development of this country. Now, I have not seen so far any a concrete step being taken to stop any wasteful expenditure in the country, to revive the government-owned enterprises, their activities, to avoid the loss-making businesses or what they are doing, the performances that they are now carrying on with. So in that situation, how can you expect a government to think about monies lying elsewhere? Under their own eyes, under their own control, when things are happening or when things are allowed to carry on like this, how can you expect that government to think of monies lying elsewhere to be brought here? I don't. I have no.
Mr.
faith in-
Varnasurya, you were affiliated with the JVP at one time. I mean, this is what Shamindra, Mr. Wijewardena and Mr. Tennakoon are talking about. This is exactly the concern of the left wing, the capitalist class siphoning away funds from the country, depriving the poor, the working class of their dues. What's happened to the leftist movement in Sri Lanka? Are they unable to comprehend the gravity of the situation, or?
During my very brief affiliation with the JVP, Nadine, as you said, I was not a member of the party by any means. They invited me to be part of the national list, and my affiliation with them was limited for that period of the election. But during that time, I actually sincerely felt, and I believed in what I was doing, was that we needed to find a bridge between alleviating this massive growth inequality of income, and I thought that we in whatever class, I don't believe in class differences, but whatever class you identify me from, rather than going on the road with the Sadhukin Peldamun, which was what the 1940s left movement did, that we, using our friendships or associations within the society, at the top rung of the corporate sector or people that we deal with professionally, that we could be a catalyst to bring about this dialogue between the proletariat and the wealth owners. I thought that I could actually be a conduit within which that leftist movement could work, and that was my contribution in that movement. But I strangely see today's leftist movement also, or the so-called pseudo leftist movement, having taken sides or allegiances with the two capitalist fractions. Now that cannot work. That cannot work. If you continued your identity, perhaps a proper leftist movement could in Sri Lanka have a valid third force, like the Lib Dems in the UK, where they started a very small party, but they gained a lot of populace and populist following, because they continued on that middle path, which led to them being a major voice in the tilting of government power.
Mr. Varnasurya, now Shamindra says something very interesting. You can't even trust a civil society to act on issues like this nature.
Shami, what's happened is, you see, when civil society, that's why I continue to say even before the election,
you said that civil society can do something.
Civil society must remain in the opposition. Civil society can never be part of a government. Now what's happened with several of the people that I see who joined in those movements for change in January 2015 is that they have been, I don't know, directly or indirectly or with knowledge or perhaps even surreptitiously, they actually feel they're actually doing something. They have been incorporated into one form or the other of a government's agenda.
Shamindra, do you agree with what Mr. Varnasurya is saying?
In a way, I agree with him, but the issue here is, Shamir, the funds. See, one person, I will take the responsibility. I will. I don't
want you to mention the names now because you have to take a look at a report that is not available.
No, it's here
to us as a journalist. But
report is here.
But you have to take full responsibility to it.
Yes. According to the government of Norway, during a 3-year period, Dr. Kumar Rupasinghe received $6 million US. Right. So he's just one person. Right now, about 6 weeks back, when Dallas Alhab Perumal raised a question in Parliament, the Parliament admitted, Mr. Mano Ganeshan admitted that the Parliament had not been informed of the total amount of money received by the NGOs for a 10-year period. He gave figures from 2011 to 2013. Every year they had received more than 10 billion Sri Lankan rupees. Just imagine the remaining period. So at least 10 billion Sri Lankan rupees annually. What are they doing? Have they built homes or schools or roads? Nothing. That is, those funds are given to influence the public.
Thank you very much, Shamindra. I just want to make a point here. We will not in any way take responsibility for the names that will be mentioned by our guest here tonight. They would have to personally take responsibility to the names that they're mentioning about individuals who are not present in the panel. Just want to keep mention of that. And yes, Chaturanga, you can pose a question.
Mr. Tennakoon, now Mr. Ferdinando is saying a lot of interesting things today. Now earlier he said that this is beyond politics. Now the picture that comes up in my head is a sub-Saharan or a Saharan South African country that is controlled by a group of MNCs. Is that what's going on? Is that what's happening here in the country? I want to pose the same question to Mr. Varnakula Surya as well after Mr. Rusiripala Tennakone comments.
Yeah, my comment about that is, from observing what is happening, we can only say that there is a callous disregard to opinions in this country. Things go unabated, continued, without caring for the opinions expressed or the oppositions raised by the people. Now, for example, what is happening in the central bank today? For example, now we had a big scam about a bond issue. What was that? A 10 billion bond issue, which was raised to 28 billion, without giving adequate notice to the participants. Today, the same thing is happening tenfold. A 40 billion bond is announced and 80 billion offered at very high rates. They have devised a mechanism. I'm using those words again. Devised a mechanism to make money.
Mr. Varnakula.
A second, Charza. Mr. Vijayawardena, your thoughts on this? They've devised a mechanism to make money.
I agree with Mr. Tennakone, because even though this may not be known to you, Shamir, this is in public knowledge today in the financial markets. There's a mechanism, there are intermediaries, and they buy, they sell, they actually manipulate the rates of interest, and at the end of the day they make huge amounts of money.
Making huge amounts of money?
I mean, the previous bond is a child's play when you compare with what is happening in
huge amounts of money with a capital H.
With all the new laws for rights of information and so on, we are living in a world completely darkened from us. There is no right of information to the affairs of the central bank. What is happening?
Mr. Varnakula Surya, I want to pose the same question to you I posed to Mr. Tennakone. Now we just got information that there are money mules as well. People who are, making this mechanism to extort money. Have we gone down to a level where we are controlled by multinational corporations?
I don't know whether it's multinational corporations, Chaturanga, but certainly we have gone to a level where our public opinion is controlled by media machines. And that information is being, I'm not saying, please don't get me wrong, there are stations like you who discuss live issues like this, but also let's not forget that there are spin doctors who are spin doctoring exactly what the public should be talking about this next week.
Mr.
Sorry, yes.
Yes, Charza, go ahead.
Yeah. The Prime Minister of Iceland was compelled to step down following the Panama Paper revelations. Now, if you take Sri Lanka, for example, for rulers, it is a tax haven here, right? I just want your thoughts. How can we get the rulers to pay taxes and set an example?
When you say rulers, I take it you mean public servants and government both?
Yes.
There are declaration of assets that all of us have to fill when we come forward for an election. Check that against the lifestyles that I mentioned a few minutes ago. See, and in that we have to fill our wives, even if our wives are shareholders of a company, and if we get a dividend out of that, if we have children of a mature age, all of that have to be filled. Check that against our lifestyles, and if that is not so, go after them, ask them to disclose their revenue and pay taxes on it. Very simple. And if they don't do it, name and shame them. But can I just tell you, although in Iceland the man stepped down, I'll tell you, if in Sri Lanka we try to impose it, we'll have 3/4 of the parliament empty, if all of them resign.
Because we're talking a lot on tax reform. Can't we get this crowd into the network? How can we tax them?
We should. That's what all of us are saying now. Why aren't our regulators doing it? I'll tell you why they're not doing it. Because our public servants have become government servants. Public servants take an oath and allegiance on the constitution to serve the public, us, not governments. But because governments have got into this mood where no sooner they come, they sack all the heads of departments, they put their own henchayas in. Now the public servants think they're here to serve governments of the day and not the public, and the whole concept has changed.
Dr. Vijayawardena, looking at the two situations now, the Prime Minister of Iceland, he had to step down because he sought some shelter from taxes. Now, the rulers here that exempt from...
They don't respond. I mean, you would have heard all the panelists here. They actually they said that one strange thing about the country called Sri Lanka is that nobody takes accountability for the action that they have taken. So it's up to the civil society, but of course then Mr. Varnasuriya said civil society is also bought over. So how can we how can we depend on that?
Thank you very much, Charita, Chaturanga, as well as Naveen for joining us this evening. We're going for a short commercial break, and when we come back, it's the final round. The speakers cannot bring in new arguments as far as the final round is concerned, only to rebut the points brought forward by the speakers. We're going for a short commercial break. When we come back, it is Face the Nation. Welcome back. This is Face the Nation, the final round. I now move on to Mr. Krishmal Varnasuriya, attorney at law, who has been very vocal about the Exchange Control Act. You brought in a point saying 6AAA, the amended act as well. Mr. Varnasuriya, do you think that this is a piece of draconian law in Sri Lanka to bring those who are enemies within a political party, probably a political group, so on and so forth, to ensure that they are trampled under their own foot? Is that the law that we are looking at as far as the Exchange Control Act is concerned?
In that sense, then even the Debt Recovery Special Provisions Act was said to be a draconian law when President Jayawardena brought it, but that was brought it for a purpose. I don't think any particular law can become draconian just by the legislation itself. It becomes draconian in its application. The law in its application must be seen to be either people friendly, and if it's not people friendly, the necessary amendments must be done. But here the debt recovery, the Exchange Control Act and the Inland Revenue Regulations are there for a specific purpose. That doesn't make it draconian. But what I'm trying to get at is this: even if these provisions are being implemented, of course they may have been used by certain political characters for political gain and hitting at others. That may have happened in the past. But if a law is used for its purpose, intended purpose, then it's not draconian in its application. But can we go a step further and not just limit ourselves to the act itself, but say this issue, because it's my last minute, I think the public needs to continue to speak of it. No sooner we allow this to die down publicly, these monies will also not come to Sri Lanka. And unfortunately, we are speaking in a second language, all of us. More Sinhala media need to pick this up. This needs to go to the rurals. People need to start talking to their friends, to their domestics, to anyone that they know in the native dialogues, Tamil or Sinhalese, and speak of these trillions of dollars that are being flaundered away, absconded from Sri Lanka, which can benefit our economy. And if people keep on, I always say, people must remain in the opposition. If we remain in the opposition, and if we create enough of a voice, no political party, no spin doctoring can take our rights away from us. People need to agitate it, take action if necessary, go to courts of law if necessary, but keep on agitating the issue. It's only then that we will bring back what is rightfully ours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Varnasuriya. Mr. Varnasuriya is a lawyer by profession. We now move on to Dr. W. Vijayawardena, former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank. Dr. Vijayawardena, who should be held accountable? Who should be held responsible in a situation like this? And what is the way forward for Sri Lanka?
Well, the way forward, Samir, is that we have to bring that money back to Sri Lanka. We'll have to get them to pay their due income taxes, because they have taken this money out of Sri Lanka because they want to avoid the payment of income taxes. And the way forward for us to do is to actually create a situation where they should bring back, because what has happened actually today is that we have created all the incentives for Sri Lankans to take their money out and park elsewhere, because they feel that the money being kept in Sri Lanka is not safe. Because as all the panelists agreed here, they said that there's a threat of the money being taken by the political parties by way of the political party contributions. So if the political party comes to know, if a particular party comes to know that a particular person is having money, definitely the political party might go after him in order to get a donation. So in order to avoid that, these monies have been taken out and they have been kept elsewhere. So they have to be brought back, and after bringing back, it is necessary that they should pay the due taxes, and also they have to...
Who should be held responsible and accountable?
All the authorities. I mean, now in this case, the Exchange Controller, the Inland Revenue Department, both have a stake here. They have to immediately look at it, the numbers. I mean, what has been released by Panama is only the tip of the iceberg. Because Panama is only one country where these tax havens have been used. I mean, when we come to Cayman Island, Bahamas, even the United Kingdom and the Delaware of the United States, now all these are the tax havens.
There may be more than 3 Sri Lankans involved.
More Sri Lankan. I mean, that's why, I mean, they said, now Mr. Varnasuriya said, no, if you have a proper investigation, half of the MPs would not be there.
Thank you very much, Dr. W. Jayawardena, former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank, for joining us this evening and expressing your thoughts about corruption and integrity of financial services in Sri Lanka. I now move on to Shamindra Ferdinando, news editor, The Island. Shamindra, can individuals have faith on financial services in Sri Lanka given what has happened over the last few years?
Yeah, see, people have no faith in this system, and people also have a political party which can, take up these issues. Now, see, as you mentioned earlier, the COPE is under the JVP now for the first time, but the central bank issues are taking place again. It's a very interesting situation. That's one. I must tell you, I think the media has a huge role to play. But watching Sirasa and other television programs, we see people come on television and allege that the journalists took money. That journalists take money from various political parties and various institutions. And they also, the previous government and this government also, they are given laptops, housing loans, various things. Children are given scholarships. So at the end of the day, we realize that there's no place to go. People have no place to go and complain, because all are controlled by political parties and big businesses. And you are aware, and I am aware, that the big businesses, you take the media. I will not mention names, but we had political party organizers, people who contest from one political party and switch sides and join the other party. They go to New York, they come back and they preach others. That is the truth. So people are helpless in this country, right? So I think there should be a change, a real change, and maybe people should vote these corrupt politicians out of parliament. But at the same time, we'll see, the father will go and the son or son-in-law or somebody will come from the same family. So that's the situation. Thank
you very much, Shamindra, for your thoughts as well. I now move on to Mr. Rusiripala Tennakon. He's a former senior banker, is working as a consultant for many organizations as well right now. Mr. Tennakon, every single time I see you on this show, you become very, very pessimistic about the country's future. Is it the same opinion that you hold even now?
Yes. Yes.
Why?
For obvious reasons. Obvious reasons from what we observe is happening in the country, we form opinions. So when we look at the country, the way it is moving forward, the way it is conducting its affairs, how we expected it to happen some time back, are entirely different. We are poles apart. We expected some drastic changes to take place, some action to be taken in certain matters that they promised that they will do. Nothing is happening. Now, with regard to the finances, I must say, the worst is happening in the financial industry in this country today. The worst. Absolutely no action is taken or no steps are being taken to stop or curtail what people have been protesting about, what people have been talking about, what the media has been trying to expose. They are just allowed to go on as it is. Deaf eye. They are completely deaf ears. They don't seem to care what happens. Therefore, we come to that opinion, we are very pessimistic about what is happening. Ministers overnight go and break the walking paths of the people and no action is taken. You want the people to go and take action against those politicians. If the leaders don't show an example by taking proper action against such wrongdoers, at least examine what really happened for the knowledge of the public eye. If that is not happening, why are you blaming us for being pessimistic? We have to be. This is the state of affairs that is continuing in this country today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Risipal Thennakoon, for your thoughts as well. Thank you very much, Mr. Krishmal Varasuri, Attorney at Law, for joining us this evening. Dr. W. Jayawardena, former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank, Mr. Risipal Thennakoon, Senior Banker, and also Mr. Shamindra Ferdinando, a news editor of The Island, for joining us this evening. Thank you very much, Nadeem. Thank you very much, Chaturang, and thank you very much, Charita, for joining us this evening as well. Something to take back home. Someone out there is making money, making huge money, or have already made their money, or is looking at making money. Who is it? I will let you decide at home. I leave you tonight with a quote, as I always do. If you desire to ride the highest wave, you must become the wave. You must be the wave. Take care and good night.